So we'll get started. I remember the last concept that we discussed is prism, right? So we discussed prism and we saw what is the relation between angle of deviation, angle of incidence, angle of the prism, and angle of emergence, right? That is delta is equal to I plus E minus A. Similarly, the angle of the prism is given as R1 plus R2, where R1 and R2 are the refracting angles inside the prism, right? Then we saw what is the angle of condition for minimum deviation. Then we saw what is the value of refractive index of a prism in terms of its angle and the angle of minimum deviation, right? So these are all the concepts that we have seen. So let's recollect the formula. A is equal to R1 plus R2. Delta is equal to I plus E minus A. And mu is given as sine of A plus delta M divided by 2 divided by sine of A by 2. Right? So these are all the formulae that are needed. Now, with this idea, we will solve few problems. See, I've shared the sheet with you. If you guys can open it, have it open. So, listen. There is a ray of light which is incident at 45 degrees on the face of an equilateral prism and passes symmetrically. Calculate the refractive index of the material of the prism. So, there is a prism. And what kind of a prism is it?
Equilateral.
So every angle is going to be 60 degrees. So we need only the angle of prism. If this is 60, then a ray is incident at 45 degrees on the face of an equilateral prism. So it is incident such that the angle of incidence is 45 degrees. And what are they saying? It's one word is important. And the ray passes symmetrically. What is the meaning of it? Symmetrically in the sense, howsoever it has entered, it will leave in the same manner. Okay, then this will also be 45 degrees. Now our work is to calculate the refractive index of this material. How to do this? So what is the formula that we know? Mu is equal to sine of A plus delta minimum divided by 2 divided by sine A by 2. But according to this problem, what are all the angles that we know?
I and A.
You know only I and A. So if I take this angle as R, this angle will also be R, accepted. Right? If this is R, the other angle is also R. So what I'm going to do is, instead of going with the formula, I'm going to apply Snell's law, because refractive index and angles, the best application is Snell's law. Right? So at the first point of incidence A, if you apply Snell's law, then you will get mu into sine 45 degrees is equal to, I'm extremely sorry, 1 into sine 45 degrees is equal to mu into sine R. Right? So observe, sine 45 degrees is equal to mu into, what is the value of R?
A by 2.
Yes, because 2R will be equal to A, which implies R is equal to A by 2. What is R? A is here. A is 60, so it will be 30 degrees. So sine 45 degrees is equal to mu times sine 30 degrees. So mu is equal to 1 by root 2 divided by half. That will be root. So answer is 1.414 approximately. I hope it is clear. Those who have already solved this can verify. So I'm going to the next problem. Listen. Second one is, a ray of light passes through an equilateral glass prism such that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of emergence. So if you take the solution, what is given? I is equal to E. If the angle of emergence is 3 by 4 times the angle of the prism, if E is equal to 3 by 4 times A, calculate the refractive index of the glass prism. So angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence. When is it possible? This shows that there is minimum deviation taking place, right? So they're asking the refractive index. How to solve, guys? We know that delta is equal to I plus E minus A, but E is equal to I. So I can write it as E plus E minus A. But what is E that is given? E is 3 by 4 times A. So 3 by 4 times A plus 3 by 4 times A minus A. How much is this? 6 by 4.
Half A.
So 3 by 2. So it will be A by 2. So this is the value of delta minimum. So mu is equal to sine of A plus delta m divided by 2 divided by sine A by 2. So that will be sine of A plus, what is the value of delta m? That is A by 2, the whole divided by 2. This whole thing will be divided by A by 2. I hope this is clear. So this will be sine of 3A by 4 divided by, but they have told it is equilateral glass prism. So it will be sine of 3A by 4 is 180 by 4. The whole divided by sine 30. So what is 180 by 4? 45.
45.
So again here also the answer is root 2. Because you will have sine 45 divided by sine 30. That is root 2. Done?
Yes, sir.
Do the next one. Try it out. Prism is an important concept. Try it out. So there is a ray of light which is incident normally on one of the faces of the prism of apex angle 30 degrees. So what is the meaning of apex angle? It is the angle of prism again. And refractive index root 2. Find the angle of deviation of light. So you guys try it out. Yeah. How to do? So what is that you are able to understand from the question? There is a ray which is incident normally on one of the faces. Okay. So when it is incident normally, what will be the angle of refraction? So at the first interface, what will be the angle of refraction?
45 degree.
No. No, it's not 45. See, when they say ray of light is incident normally, what is the angle of incidence?
0 degrees.
0.
When the angle of incidence is 0, angle of refraction will be 0, means the ray will go undeviated. It will go and hit the surface. So when it is hitting the second surface, if this angle is taken as R, then let's say the refracted ray is coming out like the emergent ray is coming out like this. What is the apex angle? It is 30 degrees, right? So they're asking delta. Delta is equal to I plus E minus A. I is how much? 0 degrees. E we don't know. Minus A is 30. So what is that we need to find? E minus 30 is the answer, but we don't know what is the value of E. How to find it? For that, they have given the refractive index, right? So we know that R1 plus R2 is A. What is the value of R1 here?
0.
It's 0 plus R is equal to 30. So R is also how much? 30 degrees only. So this is 30. Now apply Snell's law. Root 2 times sine 30 is equal to sine E. So root 2 into sine 30 is half is equal to sine E. So it will cancel how many times? Root 2 times. So what is the value of E? It will be 45 degrees. When E is 45, delta is 45 minus 30. Answer will be 15 degrees. I hope you are able to understand.
Sir, could you just scroll back to the first question? I have a doubt, sir. See, here instead of doing this, why can't we just use that delta minimum is equal to 2I minus A?
Where? You can do that.
We can?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
But here the question is not about the angle of deviation. It's about refractive index.
Oh, yes, sir. That we can use, we find the angle.
Yeah,
of
you can. You
deviation
can. You can.
Okay.
So here angle of deviation in this case will be I plus, see the basic formula is I plus E minus A. What is I? 45, E is also 45. So 90 minus 60, angle of deviation will be 30 degrees. That is, if you try to extend them, this angle will be 30 degrees. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So is there any doubt in the third problem?
No, sir.
So I want you all to try. Fourth one. There is a ray of light which is incident on the face AB of a glass prism ABC having the vertex angle A equal to 40. Let's change it to 60. Okay. The face AC is silvered and the ray of light is incident on the face AB such that it retraces its path. If the refractive index of the glass is 1.54, calculate the angle of incidence on the face AB. So if you try to read the question, we'll just convert it into a diagram. Okay. You have a triangle ABC such that light is incident on AB and the angle of the prism is 60 degrees. The face AC is silvered, means it is covered like this. The meaning of it is no more a refracting surface, it is a reflecting surface. So there is a ray which is falling on the side AB. If I take this angle of incidence as I, then the ray is going and falling on this such that it retraces its path. I want someone to tell me what is the meaning of that retracing its path.
It will come back in the same path.
Come back in the same path.
When will that happen?
After reflection.
I is
Sorry?
equal to 0.
It's very good. So the meaning of this is when they say retraces its path, That means the angle of incidence on whom? On the side AC is 0 degrees. That is why it is able to retrace its path. You remember in the case of a mirror, when we drew for spherical mirrors, we told whenever there is a light which is passing through the center of curvature, it will always retrace its path. Why? Because the angle of incidence is 0 degrees. Okay, the same thing will happen here. The angle of incidence is 0, but the angle the line is that is making with the prism is 90. I hope this point is not confusing. Right? Means there are two ways to understand this concept. You can either say it is incident at an angle 0, or what is the other way to say? It is incident normal to the side. They both are same. You can either say angle of incidence is 0, or what can you say? It is falling normal on the surface. Both mean the same. Okay. This is a very, very important statement. I've seen many times they've asked problems with this word normal or mostly they will say it is incident normal to the surface. Okay, that time you should have angle of incidence is 0. Now tell me how to solve this problem. So refractive index is 1.54. See, in this problem, we cannot find this exact answer because we have changed 40 degrees to 60. But tell me the idea, how to proceed. If I take this angle as R1, R1 plus R2 is equal to 60 degrees. Accepted? R1 plus R2 is 60. R1 is R1 only. What is the value of R2? Is it 0 degrees or 90 degrees?
90 degrees.
It is 0. Because I told you, angle of incidence is 0. It is falling normal to the surface, means angle is 0. So the meaning of this is also 60 degrees. Now is it easy for us to calculate? 1 into sin I is equal to 1.54 into sin 60. Accepted? So sin I is equal to 1.54 into root 3 divided by 2. It's difficult for us to find out unless we have a logbook. So once you have this, I will be equal to sine inverse of 1.54 into root 3 divided by 2. Okay. So this is what happens. 1.54 into root 3 divided by 2 is the required answer. Clear? I'm moving on to the next problem. We'll do one last problem and then we can go to the next concept. You can try this. Sixth one. An equilateral glass prism is immersed in water. Calculate the angle of deviation produced for a ray of light incident at 40. Change that 40 to 45. Or you can change it to 1.6, 1. Change it to 30 degrees. Do this and tell me. Anybody with the answer? The expression is enough. I don't want the exact answer. So what are all the equations we need to apply? Yes, they're asking delta. Delta is equal to I plus E minus A. What is I?
30 degrees.
Yes. E we don't know. Angle of prism 60 degrees, right? So I is 30, A is 60. To find the angle of deviation, now observe. So how many times will it undergo refraction? So if this is I, that is 30 degrees, and it will undergo refraction R, right? So R1 plus R2, and outside medium is 1.33, inside medium is 1.6. So tell me, what will you apply? 1.33 times sine 30 is equal to 1.6 times sine R1. So from this, we need to find the value of R1. Okay, let's say R1 is R1 only. Then once you get R1, what are we supposed to do? 1.6 times sine R2 will be equal to how much? 1.33 times sine E. I hope you're able to understand why it is so. Right, because on the other side, if you see, this ray will go and hit, here angle will be R2 and here the angle of emergence is E. Right. So from this you will find, see, once you get R1, is it easy for us to find R2? Once you get R1, use R1 plus R2 is equal to A and find the value of R2. Once you get R2 substituted here, then you will get the value of E. Once you get E, what are we supposed to do? Substitute in this thing. Then you will get the value of delta. That is I plus E minus A. That will give you the required answer. Okay. So I hope you are able to understand, right, and think also. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We'll go to the next concept. The next concept is going to be, we know what is power, right? So the next concept will be power of a lens. Okay. So what do we mean by power of lens? This we have already discussed. Reciprocal of,
Focal length.
Focal
yes. So reciprocal of focal length, and which is measured in what? Meter or centimeter?
meter.
Yes. So which is measured in meter is what is called as power. So power will be equal to 1 divided by F, where F is in meter, or you can write it as 100 divided by F, where F is in centimeter, right? So these are the two ways in which we can write it. This is when you have one particular lens, whether it is a concave lens or a convex lens, power is going to be the same thing. You need to apply it with proper sign convention, that's it. Now the question is about what will happen when the lens are in contact. Okay. So what will happen to the effective focal length and effective power when two lenses are in contact? That's what we are going to see. Okay. That is, to put it in simple terms, we are going to say it as a combination of lens. So when I say lens in contact, it need not be convex lens is always in contact with convex. It can be the vice versa. Concave can be in with concave, or concave and convex can be in contact. So for the understanding purpose, what I'm doing is I'm taking two convex lens which are coaxial, means they share the same axis to be in contact with each other. Okay, such that the focal length of the first lens is f1, the focal length of the second lens is f2. And remember, these two are very thin lens. In the sense, their thickness is going to be very, very small. I hope you're able to understand this. Now let's say there is an object which is placed on the left of the first lens O1, and here it is O2. Okay. What will happen is, so how many times will the light from the object undergo refraction?
Four times.
It will undergo 4 times. Very good. Then there will be a final image that is formed here. Accepted?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now the question is, see, when we derived the refraction at spherical surface, do you guys remember this mu2 by v minus mu1 by u is equal to mu2 minus mu1 by r? After we derived this, we applied it to derive something called as Lensmaker's formula. Do you guys remember that? 1 by f is equal to mu2 by mu1 minus 1 into 1 by r1 minus 1 by r2.
Yes,
So when we derived that, I would have explained a concept saying that if you break it into 2 parts, what will happen is, okay, if you break it into 2 parts, this will be the first refracting surface, this will be the second refracting spherical surface. So the image formed due to the first refracting spherical surface will behave like what?
Object for the second refraction.
Yes, it will start behaving like an object for the second refracting spherical surface, right? In the same context, what will happen is, instead of breaking the lens into 2 parts, what we will do is, we will break the system into, instead of breaking the lens itself into 4 equal parts, because you told me 4 refractions. For example, if there is 1 lens, it is 4 refractions. 2 lens, 4 refractions, right? So instead of breaking the lens itself into half, we'll break the system into 2 equal parts, such that the first lens will form an image of this object, okay, which will behave like what?
I1.
Which will behave like the image, the image formed by the first lens will behave like the object for the second lens. I hope that is clear, right? So when that is the case, observe. Can I write it like this? Let image due to first lens be formed at a distance v1. Here you can ask me from where I be measuring from. Remember, for diagrammatic purpose, I've taken a thick, but O1 and O2 are very, very, very close to each other, such that they are treated like the same point. Okay. Let image due to the first lens be formed at a distance v1. Then can I apply the formula 1 by v minus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f? If I apply it, then 1 by v1 minus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f1. If you observe here, I didn't do an important step. I always tell you, right, in derivation, you need to do something.
Sign convention.
I didn't use a sign convention. Why? But what I did is right, there is no mistake. But I told you another important point also. When do you need to apply sign convention?
For
For
known
which? Exactly. If you know all the values, if you know what exactly is happening to that particular system, you can apply sign convention. Here I didn't apply any sign convention because I wrote the object distance as u. I never specified a condition saying whether the object is placed between the focus and the optical center or at focus between C and F. Nothing, no condition is mentioned. So you don't know where exactly the image is formed. So object distance is also unknown, image distance is also unknown, and since this is going to be a generic derivation, I am not taking the focal here for diagrammatic purpose. I have taken a convex lens. So I don't know the focal length also. So that is also unknown only. That's why I wrote it as F1. No sign convention being used. Right? 1. Final image after multiple refractions is formed at which point? Is formed at distance V. Okay, again applying the formula 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. In this case, what will be where will the final image be formed? And this is happening due to the second lens, right? This is happening due to the second lens. So where will the final image be formed due to the second lens? Look at the diagram, you'll get the answer. It is formed at a distance V only. Minus 1 by, what is the value of U, guys? What will be acting as the object for this lens?
V1.
Yes. Will be equal to 1 divided by, what is the value of F?
F2.
F2. Because this is happening because of the second lens. Just give me a minute. I'll be back. Yes, students. Listen. So 1 by V minus 1 by V1 is equal to 1 by F2. Accepted. So this is 1 and this 2. Is there any doubt till this step?
Sir, can you
No, sir.
explain it, sir? I'm having
Which one?
the second one, sir.
See, for second one, I
final
applied
image.
the same. I applied the same formula. With respect to the second lens, where is the final image formed? It is formed at V. But who is acting as the object for the second lens? It is V1.
Right.
And the focal length is F2. Okay. Now add both. First equation plus second equation will be equal to 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F1 plus 1 by F2. Okay. So 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F1 plus 1 by F2. From this, what we can conclude is V is the final position of the image. U is the object distance, right? So I'm getting 1 by F1 plus 1 by F2 in the place of what? the place of 1 by f. So this 1 by f is what is called as the effective focal length. So 1 by f effective is equal to 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. So from this, what is that you can conclude? If there are two thin lengths which are kept in contact with each other, then what is the relation between the effective focal length and the individual focal lengths? 1 by f effective is equal to 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. Or what is 1 by effective is called as? It is P effective. That is the power effective is equal to P1 plus P2. Accepted? So these are the two important relations we need to have in mind.
Can you scroll up or just you can copy it?
Done?
Yes.
Now observe. Similarly, I'm going to find the relation between their magnification. So relation between magnification. So what is the value of magnification due to the first lens? So M1 will be equal to V divided by U. So basic formula for magnification, I'm talking about linear magnification, is V by U, correct? So M1, can I write it as V1 divided by U, accepted? Where V1 is the image produced due to the first lens, image distance of the first lens, and U is the object distance. Similarly, what can I write M2 as?
V by V1.
V by V1. But what is the effective magnification taking place? When I say effective magnification, if I want the object to be placed here and the image distance is still supposed to be V, the meaning of effective is instead of using two different lens, we will replace it with one effective lens. So what will be the effective magnification, guys? M effective will be equal to the final image of that lens, the image distance of that lens divided by the object distance, V divided by U. Accepted?
Yes, sir.
So tell me one thing, M1, from M1 and M2, how do we obtain this V by U? Observe now, what mathematical manipulations do we need to do? Or
M1 into M.
yes. So I can write it as V divided by V1 into V1 divided by U. V divided by V1 is M2. V1 by U is M1. So what is that you are able to understand? When you place two lenses in contact with each other, what is happening to the power? The power is increasing. They are getting added. But if you do it with a proper sign convention, you will understand. What will happen to the magnification? What is happening to the magnification, guys? When two lenses are kept in contact, or if you are using combination of lens, then what is happening to the magnification?
Remains the same.
It is not remaining same. M effective is equal to M1 into M2, guys. So the magnification is not getting added, rather it is getting multiplied. Okay, so this is what happens. Okay, this is a very, very, very important principle that is used in optical instruments like compound microscope, telescope. So all these optical instruments use the concept of combination of lens. Means if you want to magnify and see something, instead of using one lens, what you can do, you can think of combining two lenses and use them appropriately. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Make a note of it. 1 minute. So write it down. M effective is equal to M1 into M2. Done.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now listen. So this is going to be the building block for us to understand optical instruments. So for today, I will try to explain simple microscope. Let's see how it is going. Okay. So before I explain about optical instruments, I need to introduce a concept called as visual angle. Okay. So when you're seeing, let's say there is an object, there is an extended object you're looking at. Okay. When you have an extended object that you're looking at, where is the image formed in the eye? It is formed at the retina. You people know this. So it is formed at the retina. Right? This you would have learned in your 10th standard, right? So the size of the object as perceived by the eye depends upon the size of the image that is formed at retina. Accepted? Now, here there is an important point that you need to know. See, this concept whichever I'm explaining is not there in textbook. So listen to me carefully. Understanding this will help you to understand optical instruments, or else you will not understand why this near point, far point and all are coming. Okay, listen. So the size of the image formed at the retina is roughly proportional to the angle subtended by the object at the eye, which is what is called as visual angle. Okay. So before that, look at this diagram. Okay, you have eye. Let's say the object is of height h. Okay, and he's trying. The person is trying to look at that object. When I say looking at the object, the person is trying to completely view the object. Means from the bottom to the top. Are you guys able to understand this point? When I say viewing the object, it doesn't mean you're looking. For example, you keep your pen close to your eye. I'm talking about the position where you're able to see the complete pen. It is not like a part or not only the cap or something of that sort. So the person is able to see this whole position, one like this and the other like this. So you're able to find this angle theta 1. That theta 1 is what is called as the visual angle. So if you draw it exactly like this, where is the image formed? The image is formed here. You're able to observe this I1, guys. I1 is the image formed at position number 1. Suppose you move the same object to a greater distance. What will happen? If you observe from the top, there is an angle that is subtended at the eye, which is given as theta 2. Due to which, if you observe the image, the final image is a comparatively smaller one, right? Is comparatively a smaller one from the previous case, right? Are you guys able to understand this? So let's read it out. So when the object lies close to the eye, its visual angle, is it large or small, guys? You look at it and tell me, no? You look at the diagram, you have it.
Large.
Large.
So when it is large, proportionally, the size of the image that is being formed at the retina will also be a larger value, right? So that's what the point says. So when the object lies close to the eye, its visual angle is large, and hence the image I1 formed at the retina is also large. Whereas when the object is taken far away, its visual angle becomes small, and hence the image I2 formed at the retina is also small. I hope it is clear, guys. Right. So here mathematically, whatever I explained is there. See, if theta1 is the visual angle subtended to the eye for near position of an object. What do you mean by near position, guys? So what do you mean by near position?
So the minimum position to see the object clearly.
Exactly. That's also called as near point. You would have learned this, right? The other name for this is least distance of distinct vision. To put it in simple terms, I will call it as LDDV. Okay. So for a normal eye, what is a near point? Near point means the least distance at which you are able to see the object without any issue. You are able to clearly see the object for the first time. So that is called as near point, and it is generally represented with capital D. And what is it for a near? Right? I hope you are able to understand, guys. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it is 25 centimeters. So that's what they're saying. Theta1 is the visual angle subtended to the eye for near vision of object, and theta2 is the visual angle subtended at the eye for the far position of the object. Since theta1 is greater than theta2, then I1 will be greater than I2. So based on this only, so this idea will tell us that we need to go with devices like optical instruments. Why do we go for optical instruments? So optical instruments are used for increasing the visual angle artificially so as they increase the size of the image formed at the retina. Okay. So this one, whatever you are talking here is with a naked eye. We are not using any lens in between. We are neither using a lens or a mirror. Right? We are just looking at it directly through our eyes, and it is happening naturally. But what we can think of is we can use a microscope in between. You would have seen a simple microscope, right? For example, you have a vernier, you have a scale where you need to take readings. Let's say the scale is calibrated in such a way that the readings are very close to each other. Then what you will do is you will use a simple microscope. Have you ever seen this? They use in palmistry also. You will have a convex lens here through which you can actually see.
So magnifying glass.
Yeah, magnifying glass is what is a simple microscope. That's the other name. It's just a normal. Magnifying glass, or we call it as a simple microscope. Okay, that is when, if suppose the lines are so close to each other, what is happening is your eye is actually not able to resolve it. So what do you mean by resolving? See, for example, if I put the readings so close to each other, you're able to see this, right? Now see what I'm doing is, what did I do? I actually tried to zoom in, right? The other name for zooming in is nothing but magnification. I tried to magnify the object that is there in front of me. Now I'm able to see how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm able to see 6 lines. Whereas when I zoom out, it is not that clear. There is a little stain on my eyes. You're able to understand, guys. So this is what is called as magnification. So here, since I have the option of increasing or decreasing in this particular device, we are able to magnify. But it is not possible everywhere, right? So at that time, we need to go with the help. We need to take the help of optical instruments. So that's what we are going to study about. What are these optical instruments and how are they going to magnify? Am I clear till this extent? Till this point, tell me.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. So I used a word called as resolving, right? See, this resolving is nothing but the one which you're trying to speak. See, for example, in a general language, when you go to a shop and buy a mobile, you ask them, right? So how many megapixels is this camera? Right? What is the actual specification you're trying to ask? You're actually asking the resolution of that camera. Okay. So more is the pixelate quality, more is the pixels rate, more is going to be the resolving power of it. That is when you try to zoom out, right? Have you ever seen when you try to zoom out, there will be certain images where you will see these kind of boxes. After a certain point, you will start seeing these boxes. Have you ever seen this? I hope everybody would have.
Yes.
If you see a low quality
Yes, sir.
image, this will come out, right? Why is that happening? Actually? For example, I think I can do it here also. You're able to see these boxes. I tried to zoom. This is also an image only. So I'm able to see these, right? These boxes are what are called as pixels. And this is happening because the image which I have has a lower resolution. That is a meaning. So that is a meaning of resolution. In physics, we call it as resolving or resolving power of an optical instrument. That is how clear you are able to see a particular object. Okay, these are all some general information base. Right? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as I told you, this visual angle is not there in the textbook. I hope you have understood. With the hope, I'm proceeding to the next concepts here. So what is the main objective of an optical instrument? It is mainly, when I say optical instrument, its main objective is to magnify and show something depending on the requirement. You will have different requirements, right? For example, where do you use magnifying glasses? You would have seen in palmistry and all, some people sit on the road, they look at your palm and tell, right? They use a magnifying glass, right? So you can actually magnify to a comparatively greater extent. That's it. And you would have seen compound microscope, right? At least you would have heard of these things. So what does a compound microscope do? Where do they use them?
Sir, lab.
They use in the biology labs, right? Where do they use? They put something on the plate and they try to view, right? Yes. So those are all very tiny particles, right? So to magnify those tiny particles, what they use is a compound microscope. Okay. So all these things, what actually they are doing is they have a parameter called as magnifying power associated with them. Okay. Till now we were discussing about magnification. You can ask me what is the difference between both. So till now I told you magnification of a lens is V by U. What magnification did I speak about then? What is the magnification we were speaking
Linear
about?
magnification.
Yes, we were speaking about linear magnification. Here it is not linear anymore. What are we trying to speak? We are trying to speak about angular magnification because the visual angle is telling me if you are able to increase the angle, you can increase the size of the image that is formed at the retina. That is the idea. Okay, that is why here we are more concerned about angles rather than the size of the object and the image itself. Okay, the other name for this angular magnification is what is called as magnifying power. So don't get confused between linear magnification and angular magnification. They both are not same. Am I clear? Right. So when we say linear magnification, how do we define it? Linear, something dependent related to one dimension. So how did we actually define linear magnification as? It is ratio of something, right? It is a ratio of size of something to the size of something. What is that something?
Ratio of size of the image to that of the object.
Exactly. So ratio of the size of the image to the size of the object is what is called as linear magnification. Hi divided by h naught. For lens, it comes out to be V by E, but the definition is not V by E. It is actually size of the image to the size of the object. So when we say size, it is the height. A one-dimensional parameter is what we are trying to speak about. That is the reason why we call it as linear magnification. Similarly, as the name is suggesting angular magnification, what should be taken as the ratio of what should be taken into consideration is the next question we need to answer. Okay. So for that, let's try to first read out what it means. So magnifying power or angular magnification is represented by the symbol capital M, is the factor by which an image formed on the retina can be enlarged using a microscope or a telescope. Am I clear, guys? Okay. So for microscope, if at all I talk about a microscope, it can be a simple or a compound, anything. But the magnifying power concept is the same. So magnifying power is defined as what? Is the ratio of the visual angle. Okay. In your textbook, they would have told angle. Angle subtended at the eye. What angle are they trying to speak about? They are trying to speak about visual angle. So visual angle subtended by whom? Magnification is like efficiency. Okay, efficiency is output by input. So here what are we trying to say? Ratio of the visual angle subtended by the final image at the eye to the visual angle subtended by the object at the eye. Okay. So when we say the visual angle subtended by the object at the eye, means you are looking at it without any optical instrument. For example, this scenario. So in this case, in this diagram, tell me, in the eye diagram, which one should I take as the angle subtended by the object at the eye? Should I take θ1 or θ2? Did you guys understand my question? You look at the mathematical expression. Visual angle subtended by final image at eye to the visual angle subtended by the object at eye when kept at D. So tell me, which one should I take into consideration? θ1 or θ2? What is the visual angle when the object is kept at the near point?
θ1.
It is θ1. Okay. So this is going to be the formula for magnifying power of whom? Of a telescope. Visual angle subtended by final image at eye to the visual angle subtended by the object at the eye when kept at least distance of distinct vision. Similarly, for a telescope, what will happen? It is the same thing again. Okay. The magnifying power is the ratio of the visual angle subtended by the final image at the eye to the angle subtended by the object at the eye when you see it with the naked eye. That is without the help of any optical instrument. So to put it in simple terms, final image is formed with optical instrument. Okay. Whereas this one is formed without optical instrument. Is there any doubt, guys? Is there any doubt?
No.
Okay. So this is all about the magnifying power or angular magnification. Remember, our objective in the subsequent topics is going to be how to derive these expressions for different optical instruments. For that to happen, what should be the arrangement and all those things. Okay. So remember, the term linear magnification small m is different from the angular the term magnifying power capital M. So linear magnification is defined as height of the image to the height of the object. Okay, magnifying power, as discussed, is the ratio of the apparent increase in size of the image seen by the eye. Okay. Lastly, the unit of linear magnification is nothing. It is a unitless quantity, whereas the unit of capital M is x. We say 11x zoom, 10x zoom, right? So if magnifying power of a microscope is 11, then it is written as 11x. For example, your cameras also have this principle. You try to zoom in and zoom out, right? When you try to capture an image. That is the magnifying power of that particular camera. Okay. So keeping all these points in mind, we are going to see what is simple microscope. Somebody asked me simple microscope and magnifying glass. They both are the same. Okay. So why we call it as a simple microscope is because why we could have simply called it as microscope. We are adding the word simple because it's nothing but a convex lens. That's it. As simple as that. So if you use a convex lens of short focal length, why we are saying short focal length, that we'll see at the end, you will understand. So if you're using a convex lens of short focal length that can be used to see the magnified image of a small object, then that particular device is what is called as a magnifying glass or simple microscope. Okay. Next, remember one important point. All these optical instruments should form only virtual image. Why I'm saying virtual image is because only virtual images are erect in nature. For example, you can visualize it. If you use a magnifying glass and look at your hand, let's say you're looking at your palm, you're able to see the magnified version of your palm in the same way as you kept your hand, or is it inverted?
Same way.
Same way.
You're able to see it in the same way, right? For example, as I told you, vernier caliper or screw or whatever you're seeing, when you want to when you want to take a particular reading, what you do is you take it close. When you take it close, you will see exactly the way it is with a zoom version. That's it, right? If it has to be in the same way, then the image form should be virtual, because virtual images are always erect in nature. Is that clear? So this point has to be kept in your mind. Suppose. So what did I say is the objective of us? The objective is to calculate the magnifying power. So for us to calculate magnifying power, what are all the quantities that we need? We need to understand what is the angle subtended by the image at the eye. We also need to understand what is the angle subtended by the object at the eye. Okay. So for that, we'll first try to find out the angle subtended at the eye without the help of any optical instrument. Okay. So when you have a small object, let's say you have a pen in your hand, is placed between the optical center and the focus of a convex lens. Its virtual erect and magnified image is formed on the same side of the lens. So this is an important point I want to ask, but it is given here. Okay. So let's hold it. Now I'm reading the next parallel. Look at it. When we view an object with naked eyes, the object must be placed somewhere between infinity and the near point. So from this we are clear, from the concept of visual angle, again we are clear, the maximum angle is obtained only when the object is placed exactly at the near point. So let's say this H is the object which you are trying to view with your naked eye. Your eye is here. Okay. So when do I say that you are able to see the complete image? That is when you are able to see the bottom as well as the top. Accepted? Then if I take this angle, that angle is what is called as theta naught. So can I say theta naught is the angle subtended by whom? What are you trying to look at? Are you looking at the object or the image?
Object.
Object. So angle subtended by object at near point. Can I say? Wherever I say near point, it is with the help, without the help of optical instrument. You are seeing with the naked eye. That is the meaning. Okay. So the maximum angle subtended is this much. Then if you look at this, generally, though you are saying it is a maximum angle, it is not going to be of a very great value. Okay. It is going to be few radians. That's it. But compared to the other angles, this will be the maximum angle that is possible. If that is the case, what is tan theta naught from the triangle that I have here?
H by D.
H by D.
h divided by d. But when angles are small, tan theta can be approximated to theta. So this can be approximated to theta naught. So that is what is given here. So theta naught is equal to h by d, where h is the size of the object and d is the least distance of distinction for a clear vision. Am I clear to this point, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right? Now see. So we are going to see for a simple microscope. So simple microscope, as I told you, is nothing but a simple convex lens of what? Of a very short focal length. This is an important point to be kept in your mind. And one more important point I told you is the lens should always form a virtual image. Okay. So let's think in the other way. When I'm saying it needs to form a virtual image, why do I need to use a convex lens? Why don't we use a concave lens itself? Because concave lens always forms a virtual image only, no? You can get a question like this, right? It's a natural question. If we need a virtual image, why do we need to go for convex? Convex is going to form real images, no? That's what it's mainly used for. But if I want virtual, I could have gone for concave lens itself. Why didn't we go?
Because you're focusing at the near point.
That's not the reason.
The
If you read,
converging lenses.
converging is this one. Convex lens is converging. Converging means all the rays meet at a point. Concave lens is diverging. It always forms virtual image. You should think about what is the main reason for using an optical instrument. Why is that you're using an optical instrument? Is it only virtual image? Or should it be a virtual? If you revisit the ray diagrams and see, no, wherever you place the object with respect to a concave lens, it can never magnify the size of the object. Okay. If that is the case, then the only option that we are left out with is we have to use a convex lens. Again, if you revisit a convex lens ray diagram and see, there are 6 ray diagrams, right? Out of those 6 ray diagrams, if you observe, in 5 ray diagrams, it will always form a real image. Real images are always inverted in nature, whereas there will be one diagram where it forms a virtual image. Where is it forming a virtual image?
Between F and O.
In O and F.
Yes. That is what the second paragraph says. When a small object is placed between the optical center and focus of a convex lens, it's virtual, erect, and magnified. This is very important. Virtual images are always erect, straight. Is formed on the same side of the lens. The lens is held close to the eye and the distance of the object is adjusted till the image is formed at the least distance of distinction of the eye. You're able to understand, guys? So what we did here is, in the first case, that is without the help of optical instrument, I'm using blue color C. Without the help of optical instrument, what did we do? We tried to look at the size of the object such that the image is formed at which point? At the least distance of distinction. Now, we are going to use an optical instrument. See, we are using an optical instrument. We are trying to look at whom? The same object H of height H. Here also it is H only. Only thing is the diagram size is different. You're able to understand, guys? So you're looking at the same object, but where is that object placed with respect to that simple microscope? It is placed between the optical center and the focus such that it forms a virtual and a magnified image A dash B dash. Am I clear? Okay. So how it is formed? It is very simple. See, I'm going to retrace it. It is an extended object. When you take a ray parallel to the principal axis, after reflection passes through the focus on the other side. When it is passing through the optical center, it travels without any deviation. So this ray and this ray are getting diverged away from each other, as a result of which you have a virtual image that is formed. Okay, that is A dash B dash. Okay. Now observe an important point. Okay. So when this is the height of the object, if I draw a set of dotted lines, means on the image itself, there will be some part of the object's height present. If this is height of the image, this h is the height of the object, you are able to see that hi by h is greater than 1, means it is magnified. Correct? Am I clear, guys? So, can I say this AQ is also the object height? Yes. A dash Q is also the object height, and the adjustment is done in such a way that the final image is formed where? Where is the final image formed? Look at the diagram at the bottom, you will understand. This is U. This is the focal length of this lens. And what does capital D stand for? It is the
Near point, sir.
Near point.
It is a near point. Means what you are exactly doing is, once you are seeing the object's height at the near point, and here what are you doing? You are seeing the same objects. You're trying to adjust the position of the convex lens in such a way that the final image is also formed at the near point with the help of whom? With the help of an optical instrument. Am I clear, guys? Then from Q, if you join to point C, then that angle is what is called as the angle subtended at the eye. The angle subtended by the object at the eye, which you are taking as alpha. This alpha is nothing but theta naught. This alpha is nothing but theta naught, because see, h divided by d. Here also see, h divided by d. Alpha and theta naught are the same. Only thing is different notations are given. Okay. Similarly, the angle subtended by the image at the eye. So when I say angle subtended by anything, you should take its topmost point and you should take its bottom point, join both. The angle between those two lines will be the angle subtended by that particular object or image at the eye. So what is the angle subtended by the image? It is beta. Angle subtended by the object is alpha. So how can I write the magnifying power of this simple microscope as? Can I write it as beta divided by alpha, guys? Yes. So that's what is given. The magnification of this lens is beta by alpha. But I already told you, beta can be approximated to tan beta. So tan beta can be approximated to beta and vice versa. So since here we need distances, I will write the same thing as tan beta by tan alpha. See, the meaning of this D is the final image is formed at least distance of distinction. So tan beta by tan alpha. What is tan beta? Look at the diagram and tell me what is tan beta.
A dash B dash by A dash C.
That is one thing. Or you can do a simpler aspect. No? If you take
AB
this
by
triangle,
AC.
yes. If you take AB by AC, that will become H divided by U. Similarly, what is tan alpha? For tan alpha, take the triangle A dash QC. Sorry, Q A dash C. That will be how much? That will be H divided by D. This and this will get cancelled. D divided by U. If you observe, D is the final position of the object. Sorry, the image distance. U is the object distance. Image distance by object distance is the mathematical expression for what?
Linear magnification.
Linear magnification. So in this case, what is happening is the angular magnification is equal to the linear magnification. Am I clear, guys? So the angular magnification is equal to linear magnification, not in terms of definition, but in terms of mathematics. Okay. So let that be equation number 1. Now what we will do is, since we are using a lens, we will go with the concept of lens formula. That is, when you apply lens formula, 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. Okay. So what is the magnification according to this expression? It is D divided by U. So multiply with D on both sides. When I multiply with d on both the sides, you will get d divided by v minus d divided by u is equal to 1 by f. What is this d divided by u, guys? D divided by u is what?
MD.
Linear magnet.
MD.
No, here, see, mathematically it is linear. Again, I'm repeating it. It is still MD only. That is, we are concerned about angular only. MD. And where is the final image formed?
D.
Okay. So one small change that I'm going to do here is observe. V is equal to minus u. Sorry, V is equal to minus D. Oh, Arlan. V is equal to minus D. Accepted? No. Correct, huh? V is equal to minus D. What is U? U is negative or positive?
Negative.
What about the focal length of a convex lens?
Positive.
It is positive, right? So if I substitute all these values, d divided by minus d minus d divided by minus u is equal to d divided by f. Accepted? After I apply sign convention, here I am able to apply sign convention because I am sure of where the image is formed. Because I clearly told that the object is kept only between the optical center and the focus. So here every data is known to us. So this and this will get cancelled. Minus 1 plus d by u is equal to d by f. Convinced, guys? So what is d divided by u? This is magnification. Sorry. This is the magnifying power, capital MD. So capital MD will be equal to, this one will go to the other side. It will be 1 plus d divided by f. So this is going to be the magnifying power of a simple microscope. Under what scenario? Under the scenario when the final image, when the adjustment is done in such a way that the final image with the help of optical instrument is formed at capital D. Is it clear? Is there any doubt?
No, sir.
Sir, can you show the diagram, sir? Thank you, sir.
Okay. So this is when it is formed at least distance of distinction. So there is another concept where it is formed at infinity. Okay. So when it is formed at infinity concept, I will explain it in the next class. Okay. So I want you all to revise it till here because these concepts are slightly tricky and they are very important also. Okay. Any other doubt from today's class?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, just wait for a minute.